Good morning. Welcome you to Emporia Avenue. We're a little late, but not bad. We have with us this morning Doug Wheeler from Norman, Oklahoma, the West Side Church of Christ. He works with a Nigerian preacher that we work with, Felix. We support Felix. We also support Doug monthly in his work where he goes out and works to get support for Nigeria. He'll give us the class this morning, and then we'll bring us the lesson at the appropriate time. I'm going to ask Mark if he'll come and offer the opening prayer, and then we'll get started.
Let's bow together. Our Father, we thank you for this, the first day of the week, where we might gather together with intention and purpose, and that purpose being to glorify your name and to gather together with our brothers and sisters in Christ and to recall with clarity the life of Christ and what it means to each of us. We're thankful for the commission that you've given to us, that we might go out and take your word to the world and bring as many as we can into your kingdom. We ask that you would bless our efforts in this regard, and at this time we especially ask that you bless the efforts of Brother Wheeler and those that he works with, Felix and so many others that are working across Africa to bring your word to those people. We're thankful for the progress, and we're grateful that we have this opportunity this morning to hear about the progress. We ask that you be with Brother Wheeler this morning as he delivers this slideshow and presentation and a portion from his heart, that we might be more informed and be more enthused about the work there. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Good morning, brethren. I think I'm turned on. Yes. Can you hear me well? Yeah. All right. And I think they're going to bring up the first slide here in just a minute, so I'll just talk for a minute. You won't have to look at the back of my head, Marvin said, this year, because you've got this TV monitor here. This is one of my favorite places to come and preach the word and talk about the work in Nigeria, West Africa. But it seems like every time I get here, I'm always frustrated because each time I come, I make a wrong turn. As I get off the interstate, somewhere another K-15 and Southeast Boulevard, I get messed up, and I'm turning around, and I have to, some fine young Spanish young man help me. I don't know where I was. I said, how do I get there? He gave me pretty good directions, and here I am, barely on time. I guess Gary doesn't worry about it anymore, because Gary, he's used to me barely getting here. I always tell him I'm going to get there about 9:15, and I'm feeling good at 10 after 9, and then I make my wrong turn, and then I'm panicking, and today I'm just late. But at least you weren't waiting on me as we hooked up the TV monitor. Yes, we do have GPSs, but I refuse to be brought into the 21st century. I don't know who said that, but I'm in the Pony Express age. I don't have a cell phone. My wife has. I've just got a terrible attitude, and I apologize for that, but I don't think I'm going to change. And have mercy on me, and if you get tired of me coming here, then say, well, that guy's always late, and we just can't have him come. Well, we have to tell him 9:30 and expect him to be here at 10. We'll let him start at 10 or something. Get me a what? A city map. That might help. That would help. Thank you. Yes, sir. Let me see if this is up here on the security alert. Oh, yes, we're getting closer. I know we're getting closer. Bobby's taking care of that. All right. There we go. That's the one I want. I'll talk a little bit and read something when we get to the second slide. I think there's less than 100 slides. As I begin, I do want you to know, I didn't even see Felix this year that I can recall. I don't think he came to the Great Workshop, but he might have come to the Great Workshop. You remember if he said he did? Then I must have seen him. There were 441 preachers. I know I did not have a private conversation with him where he came up and we really talked. He probably with brethren from Benin City, where he's from. There's several congregations in that city of 4 million people. And he probably was with 4 or 5 guys, and, I talked with a group maybe or something, but I'm always kind of occupied and trying to deal with so many things and so many people at the Great Workshop. But that's where I would have seen him, and I'm glad to hear that he was there. I want you to know next year when I go to Nigeria, January 9th through about March 3rd, I think it is. It's another 53-day trip, Lord willing. When I go, the great workshop, which Felix will attend, is only about 25 kilometers from Benin City. It's in a place called Ologbo, Edo State. It's 25 kilometers south of Benin City. And so Felix will be there. And then after that event is over, and it's a 4 or 5 day event, then I will go into Benin City and work for 4 full days of, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Yes, 4 full days of World Bible School seminars. And whether there's about 7 preachers in Benin City, there's 40 congregations in that 4 million population city. 7 preachers in Benin City get a little bit of something from U.S. congregations. You all support Felix. There are others who support different men. And I've got to make a decision which of those 7 that I will commit to working with their congregation in the World Bible School Seminar on the 4 days that I have. But whether I am able to commit to Felix and say, okay, Felix, I'm going to work with you, and you all plan your day of work, whether it's with him or not, Felix will be around those 4 days with me, so I'll get to have plenty of time to have good discussion with Felix. So I'm looking forward to being in that area next year. This year I was in the southeast corner of Nigeria where the strength of our brotherhood is. And I'll set that up with my maps, as I usually do with you all the last few years. Now this is a map of the continent of Africa. Let me get over here and look at my monitor. And if I need to point anything out, I have a laser here. So there's Nigeria. The whole continent has right at 1 billion people. It's still just short, I understand, of 1 billion people. But by the year 2050, the continent of Africa is supposed to have 2 billion people. By the year 2050, the world is supposed to have 9 billion people. We've passed 7 billion just barely. But in the next 40 years or so, there's going to be 9 billion, statisticians say. And 50% of the population's growth in the world is going to be on the continent of Africa. And to me, just as significant is the fact that you help Felix Hegietor in Nigeria. Nigeria is the most populous country on the continent by twice as much population as the next 2 countries have. Nigeria, they say, has about 162 million people. All you got to do is Google this. I believe in Google. I just don't believe in GPS. So I Google. All right, there's Nigeria with 162 million. Egypt has right at 80 million. I think it's 82 million now. And then Ethiopia has 80 million. So those 2 countries together equal the population of Nigeria. But Nigeria is definitely the most populous country on the continent. You all help Felix with $65 a month. And I don't think you ought to be helping him anymore. Not because I want you to help me more. I don't even know if you ought to be helping me $100 a month. But I'm sure grateful, and my family, we are grateful for your support. But I don't think you ought to be helping him anymore. He's not writing to the elders, the mission committee, I don't believe, saying, increase my support. You all help him with that much monthly, and then you pay his annual rent. And that's something around $900 a year. I can't remember the exact amount, but I think you all send either $900 or $1,000, and you pay his annual rent. I wish that Felix, in Benin City, it's getting more and more expensive to live. It's a big city, so land is very expensive. I don't think he'll ever be able to build his own home in Benin City. But just outside of Benin City, I would like to think, and maybe I can find this out next year for you as well as me, have you got a plot of land? Are you able to build your own house? Because for $4,000 or $5,000 or $8,000, and he can sure get into his own house for about $4,000, is he bringing up, with some of his support that he gets and some of the support that the congregation that he preaches for gives him, is he able to be building up and bringing up his own house where someday he's not going to need $900 a year or so from the Emporia Avenue congregation, because his house will be built, he won't have to pay rent. That would be what would be real good for Felix, and probably ought to have a discussion with him about that next year. But you do a good job supporting him. He would be glad to tell you what that congregation that he preaches for is paying him. That's the old Selu Church of Christ. It starts with a U, but the U is almost silent. Uselu is what you would see. but they pronounce it Selu. But they've built their new building. Are they in that thing yet, Gary? I don't think they're in it, but they're slowly bringing that building up. I helped raise a little bit of money for that. I think you all have helped in the past. Each year we give them a little bit more from different brethren around the country here to help bring their building up. At some point they'll be meeting in that new building, and that starts with the letter I. And so they call themselves the letter I, 4 or 5 syllables, / Selu, Church of Christ. But at some point they'll be in that new building, and I'll be able to find out about how far their progress is on that building when I get there next year. But to have their own building, that congregation might be helping Felix as much as 20,000 naira a month. Maybe more at this point. 20,000 naira divided by 150. 15,000 naira would be $100 a month. So maybe he's getting about $133 a month from that congregation. They're doing something for him. And that is a good congregation. One of those brethren years ago now, maybe 7, one of those brethren from Selu Church of Christ, Felix was his preacher. His name is Ig Imogo. He's a registered nurse, and he worked for Shell Oil Company, and he made good money. And he took international tests and so forth and so on. And then headhunters from the U.S. who want more nurses in this country got him and his family to the U.S. And he lives in Phoenix, Arizona. And Phoenix, Arizona area, and works for a large hospital out there in the operating room. And he's even going to school now. And he's even getting ready to start teaching at a community college in Phoenix. Very, very capable young man. But there are some brethren like that in the congregation where Felix is preaching. So all of that is good. But that's a little bit about the continent of Africa. And I think, Baba, we could go to the next slide on the country of Nigeria. All right, you see Benin City right there in the, whoops, there it is. A little slower coming up. It's on here. There's Benin City, 4 million people. That's where Felix lives. This is where I worked, for the most part, brethren, this year, right here at the southeast corner in about a 3-state area. The reason I spent 5 weeks of my time in that area, the great workshop was over in that corner of Nigeria, and I had not been in that area for at least 3 years, and that was because of dangers in the southeastern part of Nigeria that was going on, kidnappings and things like that. So I had determined to spend more time in that area this year. And as I say, the strength of the brotherhood is there. There's over 400,000 members of the church in Nigeria. And I mention this each year the last several years. The most members of the Church of Christ in the world is in India, and then it's America, and then thirdly it's Nigeria. And you have large congregations in the southeast corner of Nigeria, some as big as 1,500. And lots of those congregations have not only elders and deacons, but their own preachers. They'll have 2. And they are not the congregations who are writing to America saying, help us do our work. We need some financial support. No. The Restoration Movement began in this corner. The further north you go and the further west you go, the less and less people have heard about our plea of let's go back to the Bible and let's try to practice undenominational Christianity. And even though Benin City has 4 million people, and there are 40 congregations, right at 40 congregations of our brethren, they still need a little help in some of those areas. And it's like, right about in here, you're a second-generation Christian. You have the chance to be a second-generation Christian. But in here, you're kind of like third-generation Christian. You've got large congregations of over 500, many of them, and you'll find grandparents who are members of the church, and the children are coming up in the faith. And so in Benin City, it's kind of like the second generation is going on. And again, the further west you go, the more scattered the congregations are. And a lot of those that are being, a lot of good growth is going on in this area, but it's slower because of lack of manpower. And they're sort of first generation Christians. And you know, first generation Christians, they don't give their monies as well as a third generation Christian who's been brought up in the faith, knows better, becomes a Christian, has better education, maybe gets a better job, and then gives well from their income. And so these over here need a little bit more help than those in this corner of Nigeria. what I wanted to mention was, as I went on my, in that state, 5-state area, we had bigger crowds and more responses for our World Bible School workshops. You know, that's what I do while I'm over there. They call them World Bible School workshops, but really, World Bible School seminars, but really they're just kind of like a gospel meeting for a day. And I won't be the only speaker. I'll be the only white man, but there'll be 3 to 5 other speakers besides myself. And they're Nigerians, and they do a great job, and everybody speaks an hour, and there's always a theme for the day, and I always know ahead of time what the theme is and what my topic is supposed to be, and it's just a gospel meeting is more or less what it is, under the guise of something called World Bible School seminars. And as I worked in Nigeria this year, I got to see 116 people be baptized into Christ. As I think about my trips in the past, I don't know, I could go back in my notes, but I never do this. I don't think there's ever been a time when I was over there that there were less than 50 people that I got to see baptized into Christ. Seldom does it go over 100, but especially when I'm not there for 3.5 months, as I have been in years gone by. But the last couple of years have been 53-day trips. Next year's going to be a 53-day trip. But there was 116 people baptized into Christ that I got to see. And if I work over here, and I already know my schedule, and I'll be more over in this area next year, the crowds won't be as big. The visitors won't be as numerous at our seminars. And you know, there might be 55, 70 people who are baptized in the same amount of time. But boy, over here, those congregations, they know how to do a World Bible School seminar. And you'll see some slides of some of the seminars. Nice buildings. Very intelligent people, very capable people, cooperation of congregations. For example, if you're Felix, I say, Felix, I'm going to come work with you this next year. Felix goes, okay. In that southeast corner, he knows, and Felix is the same way because there's a number of congregations in the Benin City. But it won't be a seminar just for one congregation. You're the guy that I've committed to working with. You received some help from Nigeria. I'm going to work with you on such and such a date next year. You know the date, but you go ahead and you start involving other congregations in it. So that when you have the seminar, you come and say, okay, Felix, what have we got on ground and what do you want me to do? And I'll find that out ahead of time before I'm there from him. But so I'll know what we're going to do. And there might be 4 congregations that will be involved in that seminar. So it's areas around. We bring their best prospects to have to hear the teaching for the seminar that day. I want to read one thing to you. People ask, and I don't think it'll take 5 minutes, but it'll take 4. You know, there's terrible things going on in Nigeria. And there's conflict between Muslim and Christian has quotes around it because, you know, they're not our brethren, but they believe in Christian principles in their minds, and they're trying to follow Jesus as they see it. But so there's conflict between Muslim and Christian, and an issue over there in Nigeria with all this conflict, this violence that's going on, is the conflict that they're having really between Muslim and Christian, or is it between Hausa tribe in the north that dominates Hausa, or Fulanese? We're seeing a little bit of, when you read, if you're reading carefully about some of the violence that goes on, the Fulanese tribe will have a little hand in it. The Fulanese tribe and the other tribes that are not their tribes. Is it tribal conflict or is it religious conflict? And even our brethren over there are not always sure just what is the root of what's going on. But nevertheless, there's terrible violence that's going on. And even while I was over there, there were some incidents that went on. By the way, brethren, 4 days of my 53-day work, I could not go to 2 places. One place I was supposed to be for 3 days. One place I was supposed to be for 1 day. And those places were, one was in Port Harcourt, and then in Bayelsa State. This is about a state right in here called Bayelsa State, and the capital is Yenagoa. And I was going to be in Yenagoa for 3 days doing 3 seminars, World Bible School seminars in that area here in River State. Brethren phoned me from each of those places as I went along my way, and they said, you can't come down here right now. It's too dangerous. It's too there's too much violence going on. One of the reasons I couldn't go to Bayelsa State is the president, Jonathan Goodluck, he's from Bayelsa State and Yenagoa. And there is a large contingent of Muslims in Yenagoa. And so brethren were telling me, and there's been some bombings and things like that. Don't come down. So when that happens, it's not a big deal. It's just that I won't be able to come, but it's just a matter of me talking to some other very capable Nigerian preachers and saying, hey, Nigerian preacher, can you go down to this place on this day or this place on these days and kind of be the lead in, certainly be my replacement and be a leader in their seminar, whether it's for one day or whether it's for 3 days. And that's not a problem to get other Nigerians to go do that for me, but they don't want me to get kidnapped or harmed. And so whenever the brethren tell me you can't come someplace, then I don't go. But even as recently as July 5, 6, and 7 and 8, there was terrible things that went on in Nigeria. And I'm going to read an article. It was in the Wall Street Journal. It was in some other magazines. It's certainly in the Nigerian newspapers. When any of this stuff happens over there, immediately I get from all kinds of different angles, whether it's America or Canadians, of our brethren over here, or Nigerians, I will begin to get information about that, and I'm able to read about it and find out about it. But this is a summary of what had gone on July 7 or 8 when over 100 people were killed in Nigeria in violence, supposedly by Muslims. But I want to read this article. It comes from The Economist. And The Economist is a magazine that comes out every week that somebody at the Westside Church of Christ in Norman takes and always gives to me. And it covers all the countries in the world. And so there's always something in the magazine about Nigeria. So this was from July 14, a week after the incident had happened, labeled Nigeria's Troubles Getting Worse. And as it gets worse, then the issue for people like me is, wow, is the central government of Nigeria so weak that it cannot secure its own people, or is the central government in Nigeria so apathetic about what's going on that they just kind of let that go? And there's arguments for both sides, and I've heard both sides, and I'm not going to go into each side with you, but that's kind of the question. Now, here's the article. I want you to know about what's going on over there, a little bit more maybe than what you do know. An extreme Islamist group is becoming even more lethally effective, and that group is Boko Haram, and they have ties with Al-Qaeda. Violence in Nigeria's north and center is worsening. Increasingly, deadly attacks on churches by Boko Haram, an extreme Islamist group, are straining fragile relations between Christians and Muslims. Attacking churches is not new for Boko Haram, but it has turned its attention to targets in Nigeria's Middle Belt, where the two religions mix, often stoking ferocious retaliation. Christian leaders have been warning that the patience of their flocks will wear out. Fierce fighting erupted in Jos. We have a school of preaching there. It's the best school of preaching, as far as I'm concerned, by our brotherhood in Nigeria. There are 21 schools of preaching, by the way. I was just on Friday in Gainesville, Texas, meeting with representatives of the Bear Valley Bible Institute of Denver, and they're connected with the school of preaching in Ibadan right here. But the best one is in Jos. And there's always conflict up in Jos, and I think I've gone into those reasons why there is. But this incident happened up there on July 7, killing at least 63 people on that day. A day later, a Nigerian senator and several other mourners were gunned down during a mass burial. Parts of the city are now under a dusk to dawn curfew. Boko Haram released a statement on July 10th saying it was behind the attacks and would continue to kill officials. It threatened again to Christians that Christians will not know peace again until they accept Islam. Now, brethren, that's the direction where that country may go. If you went from Nigeria further west and further east, right along that latitude on the rest of the continent, in the northern part of Africa is Muslim. In the southern part are Christian. And Islam just wants to keep pressing and pressing and pressing and coming south. I don't know which direction, which way the country will eventually go. I'm afraid for Nigeria. I know that when you talk to Nigerians, Nigerians would like to divide themselves up as they used to be before World War I, because Nigeria got put together as a country like Yugoslavia did. And so you talk to the people in Nigeria, they'd like to be all separated, but oil complicates things. The oil is in the south. That's what makes the country go to a large degree. And so I don't know where that country's going, but I do know people who are extreme in Islam have an attitude of, we're either going to kill you or you're going to convert. And just put that in the back of your mind, and you can live with that while you live in America the rest of your time. I'll be 60 on Wednesday. I don't know how many more days or years God's going to give me. I don't know how much I'm going to see about what's going to happen in our country with this matter. But when Muslims are numerous and have a hold somewhere, I've not seen where they don't have an attitude. The extremists always control the group. At some point, I don't see where that's going to be good for us. I don't see how it's going to be good for Nigeria. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not going to read the rest of that article, though it's interesting. I do want to say this. In Nigeria, there is a road, a main road. This is the Niger River. There's a road that goes from here. It's what they call the only road south from Abuja into this part of the country. You've got to go through this certain road. You get up here to Kaduna, which gets up here to Kano. A lot of violence in Kaduna, and sometimes in Kano, but really in this area and that area. And the Muslims will attack Christian church buildings, and they'll kill, and then they threaten to bomb. And there's suicide bombing going on over there now because of Boko Haram. And there was more than 63 killed. There was over 100 killed in the two-day event. And they've said, since I've even been back in early March this year, they've wanted to blow up a bridge along here over a river. And so people up here, they don't know. They want to come south, but they're afraid to go over that bridge because they don't know when it might blow up. Those are types of issues. At some point, the Christians on that road had had enough of all this geeing and hawing by the Muslims. And they, the Christians, quotes around it, they had one day in the last 2 months, and I have articles on that in my stuff, they stopped cars on that highway. They pulled people out, and if they were Muslim, they killed them. And your brethren were happy about that because their attitude is, hey, if our government's not going to stop them, our people has to stop this nonsense. And so they were glad to hear that stuff. And again, they're saying, I don't know where we're going to go with all this, but we're glad that because we're digging, our Christians are digging their feet in the sand saying, you're not going to keep doing this to us and keeping us off balance all the time with killing us randomly. Well, that's a little bit of what's going on in Nigeria. Let me get to some better things. Bobby, if we can see the next slide. I'll try to keep I'm not used to working with the TV monitor. Let's see if I can keep you from looking at the back of my head. All right, what you're going to see in the next several slides, and Bobby can kind of go as you see fit after I kind of comment on them. You're going to see, here's a Sunday worship service in the southeast corner of Nigeria. By the way, I almost got caught by armed robbers this year. That's never happened to me before. I had to get off of we had a flat tire. We were stranded on the side of the road in a public transportation vehicle. Don't have the map up there now, but it was between Lagos and Benin City, and I was heading to the southeast corner. It was a few days after I'd been in the country of Nigeria, and we had a flat tire, and that was fixed with a spare, and then the next thing you know, it's a van. There's 13 people on that van and all of our luggage going from Lagos to the southeast corner, from the southwest to the southeast, a 13-hour trip. And then the second blowout occurred. Then we're standing on the side of the road. The driver has to take the spare that's flat and go to the next city to get it fixed. So while we're all standing out on the side of the highway, cars going this way in 2 lanes, cars, a large body of grass between highway, and cars going that way, and it's a sloping terrain like that, while we're out standing around chewing the fat and watching the traffic scream by us. All of a sudden, cars going up the hill started stopping, and doors flew open. People ran out into the bush. I didn't know what was going on. As I figure out, well, why are they? All the people that I'm with who are Nigerians, they armed robbers, and they ran off into the bush. And by bush, we're talking about on the side of the highway. There's grass this tall, and just kind of jungly. And man, you just run off over in there to hide. And first thing I did was I didn't want to go into that stuff, so I started running up the hill. I was with one brother in Christ named Godwin Isaac, who's a preacher, and he's not married, but he has family in the southeast corner of Nigeria, and he was accompanying me over to get to Monday John Akpakpan's house on that journey. And man, I'm just he goes off in the bush, and I kept running up the hill, and finally I kind of go over to the edge of the bush, and I'm watching, and the whole incident took maybe 7 to 10 minutes. In a few minutes, I'm thinking, I got to get my stuff out of that van. I got big money. I got my passport. My passport's what I'm concerned about. And so I started talking to Godwin, let's go down there. He didn't want to do that, but finally I talked him into doing it, and he went down there, and I went halfway down the hill. I'm talking about maybe I ran 2 kilometers, 2.2 of a kilometer up this way. It's hotter than a firecracker. I'm sweating bullets. I go about halfway back to the van. He gets in there. He gets the one bag that I told him to get. He gets out, and he starts running. He gets it to me, and I start running again, and I think, I'm too old for this. I'm going to have a heart attack out here. And I think I'll just take if they want to shoot me, they can shoot me. But anyway, about the time I'm thinking that way, and I've stopped on the side of the road on the hill up this way, when they're off robbing up over here, then traffic started flowing again. And the first car that was coming down says, hey, the armed robbers have run off into the bush this way. So, wow, that's what goes on in Nigeria. Anyway, this is a Sunday morning worship. And this congregation is about 300. And they have 2 preachers. They don't get anything from the U.S. They have a nice building and so forth. So here's their Bible class. There's going to be 30 kids. I'm there early, unlike today, Gary. I'm here before service really begins, and I take a few pictures of some of the people, And right now, this is who had beat me to the service, and they're on the front porch of the preacher's quarters across the way from the church building. This is not the preacher, nor his wife. These are just the 2 who are going to teach this children's class, and there's going to be 30 in that class by the time it's all over. All right, Bobby? And then here's the teenage and up to 25-year-old. If you're single, you sit outside the church building on those chairs, and here's your 2 teachers for that. Those are fine young guys. And then the next slide is a picture of the ushers of the congregation over there. Ushers are very important, and there's somebody who's always the official usher. And these are the 2 at that congregation, and they count the money, and they pass out the visitors cards to people they don't recognize, and you fill that out. By the way, at the end of the service, every visitor is to stand, and they have your information. They say, where's Doug Wheeler? We want you to stand. And then Doug stands up and goes, hi, I'm Doug Wheeler. I'm a member of the Lord's Church. I'm from Westside Church of Christ in Norman, Oklahoma. God bless you, brethren. Good to be here with you. And then whoever else, some of them are brethren, and some of them are visitors. And if you're a visitor, if you go to Christ Redeemed Church of God, or Church of God Mission International, you stand up and you say that, they're going to listen, and when you finish, they're going to say, you say this and that, and I'm visiting my sister. Whenever you're done talking, they will say to you, hey, we are glad you are here. We want you to stay after the closing prayer for a few minutes and meet our preacher. He'll want to talk to you. And the preacher goes and meets with them, and sometimes they have a study at length right then, if that person or persons can do it, but usually it's arranged for a later time. Hey, we want to talk to you, and hopefully we can come to your house and study the Bible with you, and blah, 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 blah. And they give them some material and so forth. All right, here's the preacher, NC Sunday Edit. He was making a few brief announcements before I taught the class. Next, Bobby. And then they always use Blackboard here. I say always. By the way, we had this great workshop, 12 speakers. Each of us speak 1 hour. I'm the only white guy. 11 Nigerian preachers. 3 out of 12 of those preachers, I wasn't one of them, 3 out of 12 used PowerPoint presentation. We'll get to those pictures in a minute, and you'll see one of them using the PowerPoint. We had our songs on a PowerPoint. We didn't have to have books this time. 441 preachers there. They are moving into the 21st century. I'm the one kind of holding back. I've got to get better at that. Maybe I need to repent on GPS. When I'm with my wife, she's got the GPS. She's not with me. She's going to her mother's today at Rock Springs, Wyoming. 2 of our daughters. They're taking off at 12:30 today, get 16-hour drive, get up to Rock Springs for the next 5 days. There's the other preacher, Sunday Solomenudo. He also works with Monday John Pakpan. But he's the second preacher at this congregation. Fine guy, married, 6 kids. All right, next slide. Here's a Bible class group. By the time worship starts, I'm starting class, man, and I took a picture. Wow, 5 more minutes? Went fast. Let's keep, here's some kids during the worship hour. About ready to start worship, maybe. And then here we're singing. And then here's one of the brethren who is crippled. He got $300 or $400 from American Brethren about 5 years ago and got this bicycle made. And he pedals it with his hands. Here's a picture of the preacher and his wife. She's much taller than him. They have 3 beautiful kids. I've known them for a number of years. I've been at this congregation twice, if not 3 times over the years. Once you see these 3 slides, here's a youth seminar. This is Sunday afternoon. After we finished up at that place, a youth seminar was scheduled. I was a speaker and another guy was a speaker. Each of us spoke twice. When I get there, here's the next slide. See that signboard's handsome? Here's their preacher. And then the next slide shows, look at those young people. And they are interested, and they can't wait to ask their questions at the end of a lesson. That's how you do it over there. You teach for an hour, and then people can ask anything they want to ask. And they're sincere, and those are your brethren, and there wasn't any visitors there. These are your brethren. All right, here's a World Bible School Seminar, and you can just show these as you go through. This congregation has 2 preachers also. It's a congregation of about 400. I don't know what day of the week it was, but this is who showed up for the World Bible School Seminar. That's one of the ushers. Some of the brethren I could tell you more, but don't have time. And then just see this building. It's a big building. Great brethren. Also had a door knocking effort. A lot of times, you know, you start at, you meet at 9:30. You go out for 2 hours. Then have a little break. And then at 12:30 you start the seminar. And there'll be 4 of us who speak. And you get done before dark and everything. Here's the song leader. There's Monday John Pakpan, who handles all the money that comes through me. Your money for Felix comes through me. There's $700,000 a year. Goes through me, goes right to Monday John. Monday John, by bank transfer, wires it all out to the different preachers or schools who are to get something. The guy on the right is a medical doctor. He does clinics for our brethren free. A medical doctor, he's an eye doctor. His daddy is a preacher. This kid, he went to preaching school. I met him the first time when he was in preaching school in Emporia State. Then after preaching school, he went to university, got his university education, then he got his medical education, and now I bump into him 3 times in my 5 weeks in this area. I don't know where he's going to be. And oh, Brother Francis, good to see you. You're here. Yeah, I'm doing an eye clinic for everybody here while you're doing your WBS seminar. One day he had 82 patients get eye attention. He's working before I get there. He's working after I leave. I love that young guy. Here's a leadership seminar in Warry, Delta State. Look at that building. That'll seat 800. There was 2 people from different congregations in Delta State for this one-day leadership seminar on a Saturday. And this is at the Ugbaroke Church of Christ. Here's advertising, how to get around over there. Here, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it says, the way to World Bible School Seminar, the Church of Christ, Ikat Odion, in Ukanafan, local government area. Ukanafan is a county. But anyway, that's how we found our way to that place. I needed a sign like that today, Gary, as I came in. All right, here's the budget. Slap the budget on the wall, brethren. Do you remember those days of simplicity? Some of you who are older, you know, and then it just stays there the whole year. We've got about 6 categories of budget, and Sister so-and-so, you got a question about it, and it's May, the month of May, just look over there and see what it is. That's what we decided. You know. Here's the great workshop. We can hit these kind of quick. 4-day event. Come register on Tuesday afternoon and evening, and then it's Wednesday, and then door knocking is Thursday, and then Friday is more teaching, and then Saturday, everybody goes home. Great preachers. Felix was there, but that's why it's hard for me to, unless somebody comes directly. All right, here's a PowerPoint presentation by this guy. This guy preaches for a congregation of about 600. He's written a book. I brought books over here. This is his book. Echoes from the Pulpit. There's the second. Got capable brethren over there. I'm always learning from them. All right, let's see a couple more slides real quick. Hey, is Deloy Smith here today? Lawrence Smith. Talked to her yesterday. She goes to another congregation in Wichita. She and her husband Larry help support that guy Jonathan. He's from Benin City too, Gary. He knows Felix well. Felix knows him. Here's a school of preaching. This is the board of directors for NIAS, the Nigeria Institute of Arts and Theological Studies. And here's another preacher who's on TV in Delta State and has written books and has produced CDs. And this was in Cross River State. He was one of the speakers at a leadership seminar in Cross River State. Here's elders of a congregation of about 750. Echo Church of Christ, EKOH, Church of Christ in Warri, Delta State. Here's Money John Pakman's office. Look at his office. Nice office. There's that other preacher from the other area. He's his number 2 man at Mondays. There's this Eno, takes care of things. Here's printing material, tracts and things like that from Mission Printing in Arlington, Texas. We can hit those kind of quick. I know we need to stop. Here's Money John's conference room and his WBS office. Do you have that nice of a room? That's a lovely building. Here's all those materials, and different brethren from all over the state of Aqua Ibom State come and get materials from Monday to use in their evangelism. Here's Monday's library. Different brethren check out things. There's Monday's office. More materials there to the right. Here's one of Monday John's boys ironing his clothes before Sunday morning worship. There's Monday John on the left, and another great preacher, Sunday Joshua Uyai on the right, as we're planning one day's activities before we go out. There's his twin boys, Monday John's twin boys. Monday John and Narissa never had their own children. They're all by adoption. And these were born 12 years ago in February. There's the oldest, Etienne. Etienne is about to graduate from high school. He has written a book. It's about leadership. It is published. He is capable. He's going to Zambia with his dad first week of August. Anyway, there's Monday John's evangelism van. This next year when I go, Gary, I'm going to send out my letter. I'm going to try to raise money for different things. You know, you see that letter. You're familiar with that. I'll try to raise two $10,000 each for 2 vans like this for brethren in different areas who cooperate well together and need an evangelism bus to get together and go. Here's an orphanage, and I think maybe I've showed you slides before. We need to stop, brethren. Right, Marvin? Yes, sir. Brethren, thank you. Anybody got a question or a comment as we kind of quit? The work of Christ in Nigeria continues to expand. There's great things going on, and those brethren are determined, and those brethren know how to work amongst Muslims. In the South, they don't have to work around too many Muslims. They're concerned about them, but they figure out how to go about their business in spite of them. But they live a life of insecurity, and that's certainly different than us. God bless us all. Thank you.